Hey, how's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you though?
Not too bad, actually. I think I'm a bit better than in the morning at least. So we haven't done this in a while. I think it's good timing to discuss, and we can be even not too late on the trend. What happened last week is the launch of Threads.
Yeah,
Keeps discussing, and I've seen a lot of reactions and opinions about it. And I think I was within the first maybe like 40 million users, which I think these days you can call an early adopter.
they reached 100 million in, was it 1 week?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's only EU that it's not launched in.
Yeah, so it's like
Okay.
it's weird. They said like because of the GDPR and all the personal data potential issues, they just decided to skip EU for now. But looks
Yeah,
like the rest of the world.
we're becoming left behind because of those stupid laws.
I guess it's easier to launch quickly and then figure out how to go about this. And
Yeah,
like even without EU, if they can grow to like 100 million users in a week, that's pretty fast.
yeah,
I just wanted to discuss what you also think about it, because I have seen what's happening inside. It's actually very weird. And at the same time, it's something very big coming up. So it's also an opportunity to actually potentially get big on something new just because it's new.
yeah.
So yeah, maybe I can try to explain first how that actually works from the inside, but you're not able to see it in Europe. So basically, it's very Instagram connected.
Yeah, right.
So actually, when you install it, you log in through your Instagram account, and then it imports your data from Instagram. And also, what is weird, and maybe that's like part of the reason they were worried about the EU regulations, is that you cannot actually delete your Threads account without deleting your Instagram account.
Right. Yeah, I read.
So
Yeah.
you kind of can disable it, but you cannot delete it because it's like it's somehow connected.
Yeah.
And then what actually looks very weird is that it looks like a copy of Twitter, basically, without the direct messages. Everything is organized in a very similar manner, but like the whole party is invited from Instagram. So you get to follow everyone you followed on Instagram, and everyone kind of the same way. So what you see just when you get into there is that it's kind of all the same people and accounts that you followed on Instagram who maybe were not accustomed on Twitter because they were not like Twitter users. So they don't really know how this works. So they keep posting the same they had on Instagram. So you have like
Yeah,
a
okay.
feed with images that are basically reposts on whatever happens on Instagram. But then also half of the feeds is something you have no idea where it comes from. And this is where I think maybe the opportunity to actually comes within like the new platform, is that it tries to deliver some discovery for the content.
Yeah, recommended for you. Like,
Sort of, but it's just like some accounts that are, it's not like any recommendation even page. It's just like the overall feed, and some of the accounts you actually know and follow from Instagram, but many of them you have no idea where that comes from. Why are you seeing that? And sometimes you see some middle of discussion between the accounts. It sometimes it might be on some related topic that you may have been interested in, but sometimes it looks pretty random, like some celebrities or something. And yeah, so it's quite interesting how it gets onboarded first, because it's chaos. And especially in the first maybe 2 3 days, what it was also very heavy on is just memes about threads on
yeah,
thread,
yeah, yeah.
and about Twitter and all of that chaos at the same time, and no one really understands like how do you work with that. Yeah.
But the Instagram content isn't automatically duplicated there. But
No, it's a separate platform that is meant to be like, theoretically text based,
yeah,
because it's basically everyone was talking about threads on Twitter, which even got to some very standardized sequence where you get the first hook tweet with a thread inside where you explain
yeah,
some points, and then the last one is actually with some call to action to subscribe to some newsletter, buy some course or whatever they're selling. And yeah, threads is kind of a copy of that, although with a much larger limit of characters. So it can be a larger post of text, but then you can basically reply to yourself, and then it becomes a thread.
Yeah, like a Slack thread that I hate.
Yeah.
I don't have a Twitter account. I don't have Instagram or Facebook accounts actually, but still I was curious about this. I like Twitter a lot in theory, and I mean I go into all of these from like web. You can access a lot like without accounts, right? But Twitter always confused me with the threads, like trying to follow a conversation, like then there's a reply on the reply on the reply on the reply. I always found it very messy actually to follow something or follow a discussion. That's probably why I don't like threads in Slack also, but it became almost Inception-like to me. There's a thread in a thread in a thread in a thread.
And I think that is very special about it. It has this weird architecture of information with basically what actually happens is within Twitter, you have these connections of different informations with someone replying, and then you see some content because someone replied to it.
Yeah.
And I think also we see the user base of Twitter is not that big with a huge churn because there's not that many people who actually understand it very well. And now I think the question is, how would the threads actually grow? Because the initial boost comes from Instagram with even no promotion so far. So I think they got to 100 million users without really promoting the service. It's just basically word of mouth and people trying it. But what we see is that it's kind of a copy with Twitter, but with very different people. Like they're
right.
who are on Twitter, they're not. Maybe some of them are on threads, but the majority is just like Instagram community trying threads. And I guess it would be very interesting to see also the churn of that. If people would catch what is the logic of that new information infrastructure, or if they would like churn similarly to what I think also happened to Twitter all the time. Like someone tries to use it and then okay, that seems like a mess, and they leave it.
Yeah, I think the ratio of like the number of messages created is from a very small number of accounts. Way beyond the 80-20 rule line, I would imagine. But do you know how many users Twitter has now?
I thought it was like 200 something million.
It's not more. Okay.
It was not that many. I know. So they reported like 535 million monthly active users.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, then they've taken a big step already towards that.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like it can become a huge competitor for Twitter without maybe actually killing it, because what it doesn't do is it doesn't really get the Twitter users in that way. Like
at least. I mean, maybe it can over.
Yeah, maybe it can over time.
But is there anything like any feature that you think could differentiate from Twitter, or like what do you think their strategy is to differentiate?
So there's basically two opinions that I heard about it. One is like a very short one that's kind of against the threads, is that we don't really know the stories of Facebook builds projects that actually succeeded. Like what we know is only what they bought whenever they bought something, and that succeeded. Yeah. But the other point is actually the features that are not really visible that can make a difference in terms of the growth, where Twitter is meant to be this very transparent place where if you write something and if you're popular, then you would get, if anyone writes you shit back, you would basically see everything, whatever anyone has to say. Yeah. And basically Facebook and Instagram throughout its history faced a lot of these kind of moderation issues and everything. So it could be that threads would become much nicer, maybe, in the way how people talk to each other, partially because all the crap will be just hidden or removed, moderated, however that would work. But then when people see how others interact on the platform, they would adapt that type of behavior. So it can be that it would become another Twitter with nicer people. And the other potential thing, which it would probably just affect the business on the other side more, is how easy would it be to actually run ads successfully on the platform?
Yeah, right.
Because there's a lot of bad things about how Facebook ads work, but it's still one of the top two sources that people think of. Where do they
Yeah.
get traffic from? Where do they spend money on? And I expect Threads to be just a new checkbox in the placements area that you can
Yeah,
select.
exactly. Yeah.
And
And Twitter is way down on that list, I would say, that you consider advertising on, at least
yeah,
right now.
and it's not as easy to both just control the campaigns and get the results from it as it is from Facebook, where like, people spend millions on by default because it's like a go-to place to find the audience.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I think the kind of the pro of Threads is that basically Facebook was doing one thing the best, which is like the social part, and basically anything social media related is kind of what Facebook done well. And yeah, this is where they would also just need to win with either the other audience, even if they bring like 10-20% of Instagram, that can become bigger than Twitter potentially. But then maybe they would also tap into whatever Twitter has as their like, core users.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that if it just becomes an Instagram with another sort of comment section, maybe that's not different enough. Really, it could just be Instagram replica in some sort.
Yeah, so that's a way of competing for these guys, right? Is there any chance for Elon to do something?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I read a lot about everything going on at Twitter, but like not being a user, I don't know if it has changed that much as people say also. Like, I know a lot of people are not happy with him being the owner, but has it actually affected the usage?
Yeah, so I think I'm actually kind of an active user, I would say, of Twitter, but like I haven't figured out the strategy for me to produce the content regularly there, because for me it's much more straightforward, a longer form video than to think in these thread formats.
Yeah.
But I think I have curated quite a good basically feed that I have on Twitter. So basically, whenever I go on Twitter, I actually get decent, interesting content within the niche of like IT business related, like startups and stuff. But I think there was an issue with actual like threads on Twitter, and it goes maybe similarly what was happening like with LinkedIn with all these cringe posts, that this just very standardized format of threads, and people would just write something that would work virally because of the way it was written.
Yeah.
Then you get something that is very low quality, but that gets distributed crazy because of the like because of the way like people just figure it out, like the algorithm and how to basically tap into that with these threads. So it got worse quality. And right now, well, maybe I'm not maybe like that active of a user, but now there's like a limit on the tweets that you can see per day. You can actually scroll Twitter to the end. It's like, I think it's like a few hundred or maybe a few thousand tweets that you can see, but the very active users, they do notice that. I think they did it for something like to stop scraping, so that people would actually stop getting the data from it. And also it's now, I think maybe it's all under like the login. So basically you cannot really read it without being logged in from the web.
Yeah, I think like since just the last couple of weeks, I've got some Twitter link sent to me. I couldn't open it.
Yeah. So we'll need to see. I think it's interesting how that would develop. And even if threads don't really grow crazy, we can maybe act like they would.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to post like daily there, since there's very little like traction on my side. But it's mostly what I think gets some traction is like if people had a few 100,000 followers on Instagram and they got onto threads, and now on threads they would have like 500 people, because like not everyone joined yet. And these 500, they would get just because everyone who joins, they can start following everyone they followed on Instagram in that sort of way. And like they get some traction within this smaller group to be featured.
Yeah.
But yeah, since we're both doing sports and you're an Ironman, have you heard like what Zuckerberg is doing and how good of a shape he is?
Yeah, I've seen from his fight there, and that he wants to fight Elon. And
Yeah, but have you heard that he did? They call it the Murph Challenge. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's like you run a mile, then you do 100 push-ups. No, sorry, 100 pull-ups. Then you do 200 push-ups. Then you do 300 squats. And then you run another mile. And he did that in, I think it was like 20 pounds. So it's like 8 kilogram weight.
Yeah.
Or 12 kilogram. Like basically.
No, like 8, a bit below 10, yeah.
Yeah, with like a vest, weighted vest. And he did that in like 39 minutes.
That's quite crazy.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, he's building all that stuff, and like, why not be like just in top shape also
as well?
as well? Yeah, and I think like from what I hear like from Twitter and from a lot of people I follow is that he kind of seems to have fixed his reputation that way. Like whenever like people thought like, okay, like maybe he built like this Facebook, it's huge, but like he's a robot and he reads books about like how to shake your hand or something, but like
yeah,
but no, like he's in such a shape that he's just gonna crush everything like one step at a time.
Whatever
like
whatever he does,
family,
he will just
having a great family, being in like amazing shape, just with a business. So it's hard to bet against him.
Yeah, and that's smart in that, because that's not geeky. Also, like now you can't say that he's a super geek if he's like
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would take me a week to do 100 pull-ups. So yes, that part without the
yeah, like just like even finishing some of that would not
has he done an Ironman? I guess not.
Yeah, I think
maybe he has. Soon he will.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe too many people did it already for that to be like exclusive enough. But yeah, that's the main topic I wanted to go into, because I think it's so fresh and it's something that is maybe yet to be the rising hype in Europe, like whenever it launches there.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's more graspable than like AI and stuff. It's more
exactly. I was listening to a podcast about like AI and how the Web3 network effect works within them, and it's such a narrow niche, and people, they get super excited about these things, but then it's very like the majority of people would not appreciate that. I mean, they would appreciate if some of the things that we know, they start working just better, because in the back end then there is some like new technology, but they will not appreciate that there is like some protocol just because of that protocol being in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, but what is funny about Threads is like if you go on Google and just search for how to get rich on Threads, there's like people already explaining what should your approach be. They're selling courses, and part of the marketers I know, they are on Threads already writing like reply to this like post and will send you like a checklist on how to become successful on Threads.
Yeah, and it's like that type of content that destroys it at the same time. I mean, because that's like, and I think LinkedIn is becoming like that, right? Like people just writing according to a schedule and blah blah blah, and then it's not really interesting. Also, in the end, I think that's what's good with Twitter, that there are a lot of people just saying whatever they feel like saying. That's the real value, right? And then around that, people are trying to game it.
Yeah,
but if it's just a game, then it's not so interesting, I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But like, I think there's always a trade-off. Like without actually the discoverability of your tweets, threads, whatever, like no one would actually care. So
Yeah.
it has to be a balance of actually somehow having a huge audience and somehow delivering the message to like a huge number of people,
Yeah.
and then saying what you want, or buying Twitter and saying what you want like on it. So
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like a lot of people don't have anything to say, but they still force into that like schema on how to do it.
yeah. That's true. That I think will also always happen, and that's just like people trying to sell something would try to do that way. Cool.
Let's see what happens there. Then we have you on the inside at least.
Yeah, and let's see like how I progress there. I have 64 subscribers now, followers, whatever. Yeah, that's we'll see how big can I get.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that should be a series to follow. Actually, you trying to win threads.
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna try though. Like I'm gonna try. I don't know. Like
Isn't it interesting to follow that journey, either if you win or lose? Like it's a new topic. It's
how much engagement would that bring us? Cool. Then I guess that's it.
see you.
See ya.